Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Moses Kotane virtual lecture on Friday. My name is Bongiwe Chulai. I'm the manager innovation at Moses Kotane Institute. Today we are very excited that we are talking cannabis. We're looking at the cultivation of cannabis from a grower's perspective. The lecture today is brought to us by Mr. Simpiwe Mpungose, a chief grower at Wonderlife Cannabis Institute. He has cultivated about 3,000 plants in the greenhouses and about 10 hectares of outdoor plantation. He's an experienced scientist focusing on seed germination and special strains is indica. We are very much excited to be bringing to you over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. July. Firstly, let me thank Moses Kotane Institute for the wonderful opportunity that we are getting to come here and present to the public from a grower's perspective, the cultivation of cannabis. Firstly, one need to state beforehand that we are doing, as Wonderlife Cannabis Institute, our cultivation under our permit that is issued by SAPRA, and also we are cultivating using an IKS model, which is in compliance with the Private Usury Act through our membership of Ubulawu Betu Traditional Council. So these are the two legislative bodies that we are using to cultivate our plantation of cannabis. We are specializing on indica strain, which is commonly found in the country, in Europe, as well as in America. A brief description of indica is that you can see this strain by its leaves. The leaves are broader than those of a sativa. Indica have 9 petaled leaf. So the leaf got 9 pieces. Then you know this is indica. It grows up to 6 meters tall. It takes 4 to 6 months to grow. Yes, it's a good strain that we can have. It's used for medicinal purposes. Some are using it for recreational purposes, but it is got nutritional as well as medicinal values embedded in this strain. So we pride ourselves to be planting the indica strain. One need to start by looking at the KZN coastal areas, excuse me, because the cannabis is a very delicate crop. You need to know where to plant cannabis. KZN coastal areas have been found to have good soil texture. They've got moderate temperatures. They've got right humidity. We've got good rainfall, as well abundance of dews every morning for the plants, if planted as an outdoor crop. In the country, we know very well that the cannabis is referred to as the green gold, because as a crop, it has a strong economic potential to turn around the economy of any country. So South Africa have 4 provinces where cultivation can thrive. We've got KZN, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, as well as Limpopo. There are certain key drivers or keys that the cannabis cultivation need to consider. If a small farmer listening or viewing, or you are considering going to cannabis farming, these are things that you need to understand. Firstly, you must have the correct attitude and you must have love of the plants if you want to venture into this industry. You must also have knowledge of cannabis soil mix, how to mix the soil for the quality output. And there are things that we need to consider in mixing the soil, like the horse manure, chicken litter, bone meal, as well as blood meal, which have been scientifically developed, and they are useful in growing mediums, especially greenhouse and hydroponics, because they provide the plant with the relevant nutrients. So soil mixture is the first step that one needs to consider, and it's very important, as well as the importance of water in a cannabis plant. Remember, the water molecule has oxygen. That oxygen helps the plant roots to break down nutrients into microenzymes and bacteria that are absorbable into the plant immune system. So oxygen from the water helps the fragile young plant to develop strength and grow, as well as also light. Light is very important, like in other crops, but cannabis requires 14 hours of light, which is obtained during the summer season in KZN or in the country. So the sunrise must happen at 5 a.m. and the sunset must happen at 7 p.m. That is 14 hours of light. So in greenhouse and hydroponics, plants are subjected to extra light, like putting the light emitting, what you call globes, not heat emitting, light emitting. So there's the light in manufacture both. So light for a cannabis plant is used to process, which is the process whereby the plants are manufacturing food, which is growth for themselves. We understand that from a seed, because one needs to explain the growth cycle. From a seed, you plant the seed with a purpose and hope that it will germinate. Once it's germinated, we call it a sprout. When the sprout is growing into 4 leaves, small leaf, and then they grow more than 4, we call it a seedling. And when a seedling is starting to show these 9 petaled leaves, we say the plant is in vegetative stage. It's a plant, a complete plant. So these are above 15 centimeters tall. They are a complete plant. From then you get the plant into flowering. There is a process where you reduce the amount of light the plant is receiving to make it to flower. When it flowers, it gives buds. Some are using it for recreational purposes, but we are encouraging that people must use it for medicinal purposes. Once the plants have been harvested and dried, you collect the seeds, so the process is a cycle. It starts again. So what is important is to identify the male plant from a female plant. I should put it here that the male plants in a cannabis crop are not needed. They produce nothing other than for their fiber in the stems, as well as tea bags from the leaves. Other than that, they are not of any value, the male plants. In fact, they have pollen sacs. Those pollen sacs contains pollen, which attracts the bees into the crop or plantation. That is dangerous. If the bees collect that pollen and spread it around, you can lose the whole plantation, and it will turn into males and you won't produce buds. Then on the other side, you've got a female plant which produces buds, but we have perils, we call them perils, along the nodes, and they grow into white hair-like structures. Those are gonna be the buds that will produce oil, that will produce a lot that is used for capsules, as well as for skin lotions and other uses. So when you grow cannabis, you must know what the plant eats, the food for cannabis plant. You don't just feed cannabis, just water it. No. Cannabis, when they are very young, they need a lot of nitrogen. So you've got fertilizers that have nitrogen. They are called 232, 234. They got a high percentage of nitrogen. As the plant is in vegetative stage, it will require more of a phosphorus as a nutrient for it to grow and have a strong immune system. Remember, these plants also have immune system. They can sense you, these plants. We treat them like humans at Wonder Life. These are our babies. As the plant begins to flower, you must put sulfate, magnesium, zinc, calcium, as well as potassium for a strong and healthy immunity. And we also apply molasses from sugarcane when the plant is flowering, so that we have strong, firm buds. You don't have a bud after drying that will crumble. Molasses work is to do just that. So there are 4 stages of a cannabis plant. We have germination, where we germinate the seed. We also have vegetative, where the plant is growing, producing leaves, more leaves and branches. And when it's a fully grown female plant, we call it a fully grown girl. That plant, then it enters the flowering stage. We reduce the amount of light. It will start making buds, feeding everything that it collects from the roots into the buds. When it's ready, we are able to see, because those white hairs will turn brownish and they will coin. Once they coin with a lot of THC or terpenes, which are sugar-like coating, that tells you as a grower the plant is ready for harvesting. You must take it out from the soil medium. Then you take the plants and hang them upside down to dry. So these are 4 stages that are very important in a cannabis plantation. So mature seeds, I've put some pictures so that you can see the stretch marks. I think it's on slide 22 where you see the stretch marks. Those stretch marks are very important. They are an indicator that the seed is mature. So immature seeds will be like cream, some will be white, some will be green. Those are not ready for planting. You will put down on the soil, they won't germinate. So it's very important. Then we have seedlings, which will have 2 leaves. Initially, we call them the lungs, leaves. So those 2 are the ones that will break after 2 days into 4 leaves. Then they break into 8. They break into branches. The leaf will start petalling, and then each leaf will have 9 petals. So vegetative stage as well as flowering are very important stages of cannabis, or to a grower who is growing cannabis, because a lot can go wrong during vegetative stage. Remember, these plants, they need air circulation very strongly.
Apologies, it looks like we have been cut off a bit on our speaker. We are gonna cross live again to him as he is trying to reconnect. I think there is a connectivity issue here, but I think one of the interesting things that he did mention was the use of molasses as part of the food that is given to the plant. And it's interesting to understand how exactly is cannabis being grown, and what are the things that are not normally known to the rest of us outside of this exciting industry. I think we will be able to join him a bit shortly when he is connected back to the line. We are experiencing power cuts at Westville. Hence, there is an issue of disconnection. We will come back to you shortly. Thank you.
The roots at a flowering stage. Before harvest, I need to emphasize that the plants must have a week at least where no nutrients will be fed on the plants except water. We are cleaning the plant and the buds, so we need to put water only for a week before we harvest the plants. So it's an important thing, because you don't want the other unintended nutrients appearing on the buds. We want the buds to be natural as possible. So we put water for a week to cleanse the buds, and then we harvest. What is also important is that when you dry the cannabis, it's not like drying other plants. You have to cut the branches, detach the stem from the roots, and hang the branches with buds upside down in a zero light room. So it must be dark, and that process must take 14 to 21 days. Then you will have your good quality buds that you can take and crush and cut and make oil, extract oil. You can use butane, you can use ethanol. We can also make capsules for cancer, arthritis, Alzheimer, as well as suppositories also. We also have skin lotions, bath soaps that are made of cannabis or canna infused. So there are a wide range of products that can come out from the indica plant. But it is important to emphasize there are challenges that we are faced with as growers. Firstly, in South Africa, we are faced with the issue of the legislation, which is not yet a done and dusted issue. As I was saying earlier, we are operating under a SAPRA issued permit, as well as the IKS model that we have formulated based on the Private Usury Act. So that needs to change. The government needs to step in and correct the situation. We are watching it with interest, how they resolve, because the time that they gave themselves has lapsed. But we are hopeful that the legislation will be something that will promote mass beneficiation from the industry, because cannabis is our plant. So we must not be excluded as Black people and Black communities. Secondly, we have the issue of resources, which touches on the lack of clarity on the legislation. As a result, we cannot access financial resources as well as equipment to process the cannabis that we are planting. We know of people like in Ladysmith, Pongolo, Msinga, as well as Beckville, who are planting, but they can't process it beyond planting because they don't have equipment, they don't have funding. There is not yet an available funding for cannabis in the country. Thirdly, we have a challenge in terms of environmental effects. Outdoor planters or growers will tell you too heavy rains with acid will damage the crops. So that's why we need to know which areas to plant cannabis in the country. The issue of pests and pesticides. Pesticides contains chemicals. So we don't want to use pesticides because they've got chemicals that are harmful to human consumption, which is why we have to make sure that we plant in areas where the level of pest invasion is minimal. We also have a challenge as growers where we are not empowered because the knowledge in the country is not yet available. So thanks to Moses Kotane, who has decided that this lecture must happen, because the knowledge that I have shared, most of the people are hearing for the first time. People now are beginning to see that it's not a shortcut to go into a cannabis cultivation project. It is hard work, it requires patience. There is a lot of work that needs to happen first. So we are saying also the market access is the issue. In the meantime, we understand that the legislation is frustrating everything, even the market access. We are not accessing the markets the way we would love, where we will just have our stock, sell it. You know, there's no selling point. You have to scratch your back and try and find means and ways of selling the products. So market access must be corrected quickly. The government must enable the situation. We are very happy in KZN that Moses Kotane is here now. They can also assist in that regard to make sure that the issue of market access, the information is available at our fingertip as growers and farmers. I wish to thank you all, and also I once again thank Moses Kotane for the opportunity given to us to come and explain and share the information, practical information that we are working with on a daily basis at Wonderlife Cannabis Institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. I think it's been such an eye-opener to fully understand from a grower's perspective, the actual work of growing cannabis. And I hear a lot that women are more preferred to deal with the plant since it is sensitive and it requires a bit of TLC when it's handled. That's the first part. But I think I wanted to go back a bit because the biggest challenge for the grower, for market, as you indicated, and for the whole of industry is the issue of legislation. How far are we with as the country in getting clearer guidelines and clearer legislation around cannabis, and how much of its hindrance is actually impacting on the economy?
Yeah,
It's fine.
I'm saying the legislation, unfortunately, is a biggest hindrance in the country because it affects everything about cannabis. We have submitted, as I hope you are aware, there was a submission to Parliament on the private usury bill on cannabis, which seemed to be something that will not benefit us as cannabis farmers, which will not benefit the poor communities because that private usury bill emphasizes that those who have the means are the ones who must participate and benefit. Those who don't have money and equipment must stay behind. So the bill in itself, we rejected it. We have Parliament extended to 9th of October, which was the due date for the public submissions, to 31st December. So now we are being dragged again. It's a delay. We don't know then after the 31st of December what excuse they will come up with. But it's very frustrating to us as cannabis growers because to get seeds, I want to emphasize, to get seeds from abroad, then you are limited in terms of quantity. So that bill, which is still a bill, is being implemented by the police. They will tell you you are not allowed to carry so much seeds. So it's frustration. Yes, we are hopeful that government will sort itself and give us access to our indigenous plant. Cannabis is a plant. It's not drugs like cocaine, heroin. This is a plant. We must be given access to it, and we must also make lives. You know, we want to educate our kids with the proceeds of cultivating cannabis. The industry last year was said to have the global cannabis industry. It was said to be around $3 trillion. We want to have a share as poor communities in this country, as black growers. We want to have a share. And lastly, I want to say this. I am a cannabis farmer. You know, when you say a grower, it's someone who experiments with 50 plants. I am a cannabis farmer. I have planted 30,000 cannabis plants and I have harvested them. I know this is what
Thank you,
my white
thank you for
counterpart.
that clarity.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think one of the comments from Mr. Don Govender is
Mm,
saying illegal imports are very damaging to local industry
mm,
because I mean I've been to Canacon and I've been to other cannabis forums where you do find that a lot of products that are being sold, whether it's CBD or had a little bit of THC, are all imports. Are all imports. How then do we then ensure that what has been cultivated, what has been farmed locally, gets same access to international markets if legislation continues to put those barriers on cannabis farmers? I think that's a discussion that we need to take forward. I think we will close it here today, but I do promise that as of today, we are going to be having another one where we actually look at what is the bill saying? What is in front
Yes.
of Parliament on that bill, and what are the possible impacts and what are possible issues that we can look at and fully understand, as this is a new industry, everybody's trying to get into it, and we don't want to be falling behind as any other sector we've fallen behind. This is ours, as Mr. Mpungose have said. This has been with our forefathers. It is a plant is given to us, and we can benefit from that from that plant. So we'd like to thank each and everyone. Look out for at Moses Kotane Institute.com for the next one, where we'll be looking at the legal part of it and what exactly is on that bill, and we get somebody to clarify the bill for us. We'd like to thank Mr. Mpungose, and we hope that you get good harvest for the next coming year, and that the rain does not come and deal with the holy plant in a negative way. We wish you prosperity, and we thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. July. I would also like to thank Lisa as well as Mduku Zwayo for their support. I must thank Lisa and Mduku Zwayo, as well as my CEO who came with me to Moses Kotane, as well as you, Ms. July. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of today's lecture. My name is Bongiwe July. I'm the Manager Innovation at the Moses Kotane Institute. Thank you.